Oh, that's okay. Hi, Todd. How you doing today, buddy?
I'm well, thank you.
So nice of you to join us. I saw your tweet. You're live from Moscow, and this is your bailiwick, Russia. So I have
It
some
is.
questions, and I'm always interested in your geo views, not only in Russia. Maybe we'll get to China, but I have some
Sure.
questions. Why don't we start off with what do you think is behind? And I saw a tweet about Russia bringing in quote unquote advisors, military equipment into Syria. What's the end game in your view there?
Well, Russia has a military base at Tartus in the Syrian port, and they've had it for a long time. So, at a very basic level, they just want to maintain, the ability to use that as their anchor in the Mediterranean for the Black Sea Fleet. So they don't want to lose that. Second of all, Assad has been an ally for decades, way back to the Khrushchev days, or at least his father and Assad. So they don't want to lose that relationship either. It's again their toehold in the Middle East. Obviously, they're establishing a forward operating base to project air power and whatever else in the region, since the U.S. has pulled all their troops out. So it's quite fascinating, actually.
Yeah, he's really making some moves on the chessboard. And as anytime you talk about the Middle East, you have to think about oil.
Right.
Oil is a very integral part of Russia's economy. So their economy has been suffering because of lower oil prices, although prices for the average Russian, food, necessities, have skyrocketed. Does he
Yes.
still enjoy the same degree of popularity he had about a year ago before Russians had to start living with not being able to afford basic necessities?
Well, that's a good question, and I wrote a column a couple months ago where when I had my first experience of the crack in the armor, if you will, where a taxi driver was quite vividly stating his dislike of what's going on. So that to me is kind of like the shoe shine boy giving you stock tips. When that happens, you know that things are changing, and I think under the surface, people probably, when they're called on the phone, don't want to admit it, but I think there is some definite unhappiness here, and that may be the reason behind the Syrian move as well, to give another jolt of nationalism into the whole scenario.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's going to do it. How did the Russian population feel about Putin's decision to destroy all the food that was given to
That
the
was not
Russians?
that didn't go over well either, especially from a lot of people who don't have access to enough food. So that didn't go over well.
Okay, so you know what? What do we have? We have a desperate situation. We possibly have a leader, strong man leader, who's big. There are rumblings against him now for the first time in a while, and his tactics are nationalism. So I'd like to know if you think he believes to make a further move in Ukraine that he has a certain time window with the U.S. presidential elections a little over a year away. And not knowing who's going to be the next president, but knowing who he's dealing with now would most likely be the time to press his advantage and do something with limited repercussions.
Oh, that's already happened. It's happened in Ukraine and it's happening in Syria. That's why he's acting the way he is, because the U.S. really has no national security leadership at this point. So, to answer your question, it's already happening. Whether he'll go further in Ukraine, I don't think he wants to have two fronts that are going to cost him a lot of money, which he doesn't have. So I think he is. You're seeing a bid for peace in Minsk. Poroshenko, the Ukrainian president, recently said it looks like we're inching toward peace. I think that has a lot to do with opening another front in Syria. So I think they're just going to sit on what they have there and continue to make the government in Kiev nervous.
Or else it's a misdirection play that they're setting up this forward base in Syria. Because I actually heard an analyst, Todd, on CNBC, I can't remember
Hmm.
his name, but he stated that global markets on both the geo and risk level and markets are
Hmm.
completely underestimating Russia that he believes we're going to see Russian tanks in Kiev before it's over?
That's quite possible. Frankly, I don't think the resources are there for that at this point, because that would entail really the destruction of the Russian economy. The West would shut down completely, and I just don't think the resources are there. I think he is right that you don't want to underestimate this man or this country at this point. There are lots of surprises to come, but I'm just not sure it will be in that manner. But he's been very hard to predict, so who knows what will happen.
Okay. So do you believe that he thinks that being in Syria, could this also be, even though Syria is not oil rich, in the oil rich region, you know that it would be advantageous to create some type of crisis for oil prices to recover?
That is completely possible.
How could he do that from Syria?
I'm not so sure he would do it specifically from Syria. I think he'd probably backdoor it through Iran. That's my thought. In that, did we lose you?
No, I'm here.
Okay. I got some kind of strange Skype thing coming up. Sorry about that.
Oh yeah.
I think they're going to sell Iran.
Putin is hacking us right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Go ahead, buddy.
I think they're going to sell Iran a lot of weapons, make a lot of money, and let Iran be the aggressor. That's what I think. And
okay, so use proxies. Just
yes, exactly.
Build up the proxies.
Mm-hmm.
Can we switch gears to China?
Sure.
Because we've talked about China before. What do you make out of China sending their Navy into the Bering Straits for the first time in history?
I think it's, the Pacific used to be called the American Lake. I flew helicopters for the Air Force in Alaska for 3 years, and that's completely unprecedented. And it no longer, I think China wants us to know very succinctly that it is not our playground anymore. And I think things are getting very bad in China economically, and they are doing kind of the same thing Putin is doing, is that they are, giving another outlet to their aggressive tendencies. The economy is slowing, and they need an enemy, and the same thing Putin has done.
I don't know. What about the timing of first it being Russia and now it being China? Basically, you have the serial China on the ascension, except for what's happening with their mismanagement of the economy. I remember saying for years, anytime I interviewed someone, that our Fed has been around for over 100 years, and they make mistakes. That the Chinese were relatively new at the central banking game, and if you have less experience, you're almost more likely to make mistakes. And boy, have we been seeing them with what they're trying to do in the market, hunting down and imprisoning short sellers.
Isn't that just crazy?
You go to jail if you liquidate a long position.
Yeah.
So now we're going to have nationalism with this access. What else do you think could be behind China? And we came close to something happening in North Korea only about a month ago, and we know whose proxy North Korea is. Could they be giving North Korea, just like Putin in Syria, push North Korea to possibly even get into a hot war with South Korea?
I was just in North Korea on the DMZ a few months ago, courtesy of the Washington Times at a conference, and China is just as unhappy of North Korea as the West is. I mean, they see them as a loose cannon.
I've heard that.
I think Russia is actually closer to North Korea now. They're supplying them with fuel. They're giving them food. Some of the delegation just came to Moscow recently. So I don't think China is pushing in that direction. Now, if you look at what they're doing in the South China Sea, I mean, that is
building those islands?
Completely militaristic. If you look at the map, that's nowhere near China. I mean, it's a long ways away. So,
they want the Philippines, don't they?
They want the sea lanes, and they want to kick the U.S. Navy out. That's what they want. And so that's their goal there.
Okay, so that was exemplified by the flyover of our spy plane, and then telling us to
Hmm.
get out of the area. That was kind of an unusual event.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
tinderbox waiting to happen as well.
Okay, so what do you think, Todd? We're going to get through 2016 without some of these economic concerns turning into a hot war, and where do you think, if it happens, would be a flashpoint?
Oh, that's a hard one to tell. I'll tell you what I do think. Something's going to happen that the commodity currency have been destroyed, and that all rides on the price of oil. And you mentioned it before, but I think something will happen to reduce the world's complacency with oil prices, and that will be some type of conflict in the Persian Gulf or whatever, and it will spike oil prices, and then the loonie, the Aussie, they will all pop. I mean, I wrote a column about that recently for another financial site. I think
Yeah, I
that's
mean those
a trade.
currencies. The Aussie used to be 115, 120 only 2 years ago, trading under 70 cents here. So you think it's out of the Middle East? Does it have to do with the Iran treaty?
I think it's a black swan. It's kind of like something. It's like the Nasdaq at 5,000 10 years ago. You knew it was crazy, but you didn't know what was going to stop it. And I think that's exactly the kind of situation we're in now.
Okay, so I would assume, and Todd, I got lucky. I was long volatility to the flash crash. I was
Good for
underwater
you.
big. I was underwater big. I was buying this thing called TVIX that just kept
Hmm.
cratering for 4 months, even though the VIX was doing nothing. It took a historic move for me to recapture principal and make a
Yeah,
little money.
yeah.
Then I have to assume that you think what happened in early August is just the first shot across the bow.
Yeah, I think we've got some. The world is, where's the safety? I mean, the U.S. has such an interest rate.
Well, you look pretty relaxed in Moscow right now. An American in
It's a
Moscow,
great
you're
city.
fearless, buddy. You're fearless.
It's a great city. If you ever get the chance, come on over. Unless you don't like beautiful women, but it's
My wife
the
heard you,
world
and I can't get enough.
the world is a scary place. So
Yeah, so it's always edifying talking to you, and I just get a vibe from you that you think that uh, there are a lot of tinder boxes. We don't know where it's going to come from, but be careful about taking Goldman's call for $20 oil. The gold is starting to show, the junior miners are starting to show some pretty good support. We haven't taken out that low of 1060. I have to think that you're favoring, and now when you talk about the commodity currencies, that also takes into account metals, not just the
yeah,
oil.
of course, yeah,
So
commodities in general, yeah.
yeah, in fact, I forgot who it was, a famous fund manager who, for the first time, is starting a commodity fund. So
Huh.
even the smart big money are now looking for what might be the next best asset class, because people are so bearish commodities and deflation, deflation, deflation. There's got to be some opportunities there.
Yeah. Plus, with what's happened look at the charts. I mean, it's you buy. I learned a long time ago. You buy something when no one else wants it, when there's blood in the streets, and that's definitely what's happening. So, um, if you got to have some time to wait though, because you don't know when it's going to happen.
Yeah, that's always the iffy part. So
Hmm.
stay safe, Todd.
All right. Thank
It's
you.
great to see you. I'm always interested in your tweets. You could follow Todd at L.Todd Wood. What's happening on the literary front for you, Todd?
I've got a fourth novel coming out called Motherland. Should be out within 30 days, 45 days, I hope.
Is that based upon Hillary Clinton winning the presidency here in 2016?
It's based on global
Nanny
domination, so I
state?
guess that could be her.
I know you mean Russia, but
Well,
uh,
I'm not going to give the plot away, but
uh,
I've also got people can see my column at the Washington Times called Behind the
yeah.
Curtain if they'd like to look at that.
Okay, and I have to ask you this.
Hmm.
What do you think of Donald Trump?
you know, uh, he's saying all the right things. that are making people like him, obviously. So there's obviously a unhappiness he's touching, or tapping into. Will he be the next president? I seriously doubt it, but he's definitely hitting nerves with a lot of people.
What might disqualify him, in my humble opinion, is that he has an eye disease. Do you know what an eye disease is, Todd?
No, what's that?
I am rich. I am
Yeah.
smart. I'm
Sure.
paying for my I.
Yeah.
So I tell you what, I even find myself, I can't not watch a Donald Trump rally. And it's so repetitive, but it is theater. And God, do we live in interesting times, Todd. Thanks for updating us about your views on Russia, what they're up to in Syria. I'm glad you're sanguine about their financial condition preventing them from making a full move in tanks in Kiev, because I don't know what would prevent a hot war, since we are beginning to arm the Baltic states, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, well, we have to. They're part of NATO. They have no choice.
Okay, Todd. Well, let's end it with peace be with you and all of us in this dangerous world.
Thank you. Let me just mention my website, L.toddwood.com, if people want to check out my books. Thank you very much, Dale.
Yeah, and give Todd's books a read. They can order them off your website.
Yep, or they're anywhere online.
Okay. Todd's got not only the power of speech, but the power of the written word. I recommend reading Todd's work and keeping in touch with what he thinks. So thanks again, Todd. Have a great fall. Have a great fall.
Anytime. Take care.
All right, Todd.
Bye.
Bye-bye.